Hey, Kuba, how you doing?
Um, I mean, it's not great news, so I'm not going to say I'm doing super
Sorry to
well.
ask.
But
Sorry to ask.
no, the situation, uh, it's ironic because last week, when the Russian Foreign Ministry was still playing down the invasion fears and hyping up the sense that this is just Western hysteria, the Foreign Ministry spokesman was asked about the February 16th date and said, European wars rarely start on a Wednesday. And I checked the calendar. Guess what?
It's Wednesday. Is it
Yes,
summer?
yes, precisely. And the so it turns out that it was an even deeper troll than it first seemed. Um,
Jesus.
and the what Putin has announced is a military operation in eastern Ukraine. It's unclear what that means and what their ultimate war plans are. I think that given the amount of troops that were mustered and the strategic advantages that Russia enjoys, their army is specially designed for this kind of conflict. The Ukrainians use the same size rail gauge as Russia, which is a big deal because most Russian logistics for conventional military operations are rail based. So they'll be able to move quickly and under favorable conditions. And apart from those logistical, technical considerations, don't forget that they're invading a country whose language they understand. They can read the street signs. They're familiar with it. They can talk to people, and they don't need translators. It's not like the US and Iraq or Afghanistan. So they'll move quickly. I've heard reports that already an amphibious assault has landed troops in the port of Odessa, which is actually way on the western end of the country near the border with Romania. It's a heavily Russian city, so it's favorable terrain for um, Russian operations, and they've entered the city of Chernigov and are moving towards Kharkov. There have been missile attacks to ground air defenses and um, air bases in and around Kiev. So I hope that now that it's started, the best outcome would be that it happens quickly with minimum loss of life. Um, and we'll see too how far Russia is inclined to press this invasion. The There are territories which are soft and very attractive targets in the sense that they're not heavily defended and strategically valuable while having a population that would be most amenable to um, becoming part of Russia or a Russian occupation. And that includes the region around Odessa, the oblasts or provinces just north of Crimea and in the north and east of the country. The way that Putin characterizes the opposition in Ukraine, he keeps referring to the Kiev regime. And I would be surprised if he stopped short of um, going all the way to Kiev um, to end the conflict in a way that works with the narrative that he's presenting. The Kiev regime would need to go. And uh, in the speeches that he's given to justify a uh, an attack on Ukraine, he's stressed that the Ukrainian heartland is a part of Russia, that it's a continuity of peoples and territory. If he's committed to Odessa, it's hard to see how he'll stop short of going all the way to Kiev. The lingering question, and for me, a source of unease, is whether Russia will go into Western Ukraine, because the territory in the center, cities like Odessa, cities like Kharkov, Dnipro, Chernigov, are ones which have a heavy Russian presence, and until relatively recently had a population that was very ambivalent about their own national identity, whether they were Ukrainian or Russian. Since 2014, there's been a tendency for more and more people in those areas to say they're Ukrainian, but part of that could be pressure from the government, part of that could be a reaction against the security situation, a feeling that Russia's pushed them into it. But in the western part, it is much more uniform and much deeper in its Ukrainian identity. So those are territories which could only be occupied and controlled with a high degree of repression and violence. It would be like the Brits in Ireland versus the Brits in Scotland. And if he's willing to go into an area where the population is so likely to be hostile and with a much shorter and shallower connection to Russian nationhood and history, then the implication would be that he's willing to deploy that kind of repression and force just for the sake of strategic depth in territory that he knows would be unfriendly and isn't that economically or strategically vital for Russia. So that for me would be a point where we go from a very serious security conflict with clear Russian interests and objectives to aggression against a people that where that occupation would be decidedly unwelcome and harsh. So we'll see what how the situation develops and what type of resistance the Ukrainian forces are able to mount against Russian advances. One thing that I think we can expect is that Western support won't take the form of a commitment of troops, but some support activities, weapons, materiel, cyber attacks. The British have already said that they're going to mount operations, internet operations against Russian military and government infrastructure. A move where NATO and Russian forces clash directly is not required by any agreement that the West has with Ukraine. And everybody understands that that kind of escalation would internationalize the conflict and pull in the United States and other NATO allies, where a broader, longer war would be inevitable. So I think that ultimately NATO will do what happened, do what they did with Georgia when the Russians similarly entered to support separatist enclaves in South Ossetia and Abkhazia, which is rhetoric, sanctions, but no direct military support.
And Kuba, have you seen the movie Better Off Dead?
How do you feel about John Cusack, the young John Cusack?
Junk. That guy was a hottie. Like
Good take. Good take.
high fidelity.
Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe on your way out. You can catch the live stream of This Is Revolution every Tuesday through Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. This is Revolution.